let us see the hydrides now. We know that hydrogen under proper conditions forms a lot of hydrides, depending upon if the conditions are conducive, depending upon the type of the element which is joining with that. It can be, say, in case if it is some metal, Mx and Hy. Okay, depending upon the oxidation capacity of the metal which forms the hydride, it can be Mx and Xy. So hydrides are of three types. One is ionic hydride. Okay, ionic hydride or electron ionic hydride or saline hydrides, and these are also called saline hydrides, and then actually, yeah, that's what the ionic hydrides, covalent hydrides. This is ionic hydrides, covalent hydrides, and metallic hydrides. Metallic hydrides. So now when you come to ionic hydrides are mostly, the first one, ionic hydrides are mostly polar in nature. Mostly it is formed by S1 block, S block elements like sodium or other things, sodium hydride and then calcium hydride, all those things. So mostly they have a ionic character. But then there are certain exceptions like magnesium hydride, etc., which acts as covalent hydrides. Even lithium hydride, they have a covalent character. They have an ionic character and these have covalent character. And then the ionic hydrides react very violently with water. They react very violently with water, even if small traces of water is sprinkled on them, they form NaOH. Okay, so they react very violently with water to form the alkali, sodium hydroxide. So not only this, other compounds of hydrides also are like that. For calcium, it will be calcium hydroxide like that. Okay, so this is about ionic hydrides. And of course, covalent hydrides are subdivided into three types. One is electron deficient, hydrides. Especially if you take the group 13 metals, they form elements, group 13 elements plus hydrogen gives that hydrides of group 13 elements. They are mostly electron deficient. Things like boron forms B2H3. They don't have the required boron doesn't have the required number of electrons to form a stable octet. So they are always electron deficient. So whenever there is electron deficient, they always accept a pair of electron wherever if it is coming from. So when they accept the pair of electrons, though naturally they are Lewis acids. Okay, they accept whenever there is a chance, they accept a pair of electrons from whoever is giving to get the stable octet, and so they act as Lewis acid. So this is about electron deficient hydrides. And the electron precise hydrides are of the second type. Electron precise hydrides. These electron precise hydrides have enough number of electrons along with the both the elements will have enough number of electrons to get the stable octet. And of course, mostly this is in group 14 elements. This is group 13, this is group 14 elements. like example is methane, all those things. They mostly have a perfect geometry. So they have a perfect tetrahedral structure with sp3 hybridization. Okay, they have a perfect tetrahedral structure. Example is methane. Okay, so then the third one is electron rich hydrides. So as the name itself suggests, they have extra electrons. Say this is especially from group 15 to 17. So like that, hydrogen is able to form hydrides across different, this thing, right from S blocks to even the P block, right from first group to the group 17 elements, and selectively it can also form some hydrides with the inert metals also, like xenon, this thing, very rarely. So group 15 to group 17, they form this thing, and right from NS3, all those, this thing, they have an extra pair of electrons on them. Okay, so even if you take H2O, water, they have extra pairs of electrons, so they are called electron rich. And so whenever there is extra electron, what do you infer? The extra electrons can always be donated to somebody. Okay, so these are electron, whereas these are Lewis acid electron acceptors, whereas these are Lewis bases or electron donors. Okay, this is about ionic and covalent hydrides, and of course we shall also see about metallic hydrides. Now we have to see about metallic hydrides or interstitial hydrides. So if hydrogen reacts with D block or F block elements and forms hydrides, they are coming under these metallic hydrides. Anyway, even if there is a D block, even in the D block F block, then even in D block, group 7, 8, 9 elements do not form halides. Okay, they do not form halides. Okay, even in group 6 also, only chromium forms halide. Other than that, in 5, 6, 7, right from right from group 3, 4, 5, they extensively form halides. But most of the halides are non-stoichiometric. Especially when it comes to F block elements forming this thing, they are non-stoichiometric. Okay, in the sense, the proportion of hydrogen and the element, especially F block hydrides. Okay, F block hydrides. Like xanthanum, Ya, all those things, they form the hydrogen added to the element may not be in a whole number. So there is a non-stoichiometric hydrides. The main beauty of this hydrides of D block elements is that it can actually, the D block elements, when they have they have the power to absorb the hydrides. And actually it was even this non-stoichiometric and all, it made the scientists to think that initially that these hydrogens are occupying the interstitial spaces between the different elements, between the different metals. Then later it was proved wrong. In the sense, actually, if you take the nickel or palladium or other halides, the halides of this have a different crystal structure. Crystal structure is different than that of the original element. Okay, crystal structure is different than that of the original element. So, and one more thing is, the beauty of it is they are able to absorb these things and all are able to absorb a lot of hydrogen, and they play a vital role because of this absorption. They play a vital role in hydrogenation. So, hydrogenation due to hydrogenation reactions are due to absorption, power of absorption of this, or hydrogen getting absorbed. By especially nickel, palladium, platinum, etc. Especially for if you take the two elements, palladium, platinum and all, they have very high this thing for greater absorption. Palladium, platinum especially, if you take these two, they are very high absorbers of hydrogen. So they can even say they are as a storehouse of energy, because hydrogen is always, we have seen that it can be used as a fuel cell also. It is highly combustible and all. So the palladium, platinum, because of their high absorption power of hydrogen, act as storehouses for energy. Okay, and invariably the palladium, platinum and all, they act as this catalyst in many of the hydrogenation reactions. They act as a catalyst in many of the hydrogenation reactions. Even for that matter, Fe acts as a catalyst in in many of the hydrogenation reaction, palladium, platinum and all. Okay, so now this is about metallic hydrides. Now let us go to water. You know, water is a universal solvent. It is highly abundant in earth, and of course even in all living beings, even including our body. Our human body contains as much as 65% of water, and even the whole world is surrounded by, our whole world within the land areas or other than the land areas is surrounded by water. So the water is very, very important for a biological living, all the biological living things, and without the presence of water, they say, anywhere in the universe, if there is no water, there can be no chances of any living things being existent. So like that, water has a very, very important role. And if you take the structure of water, usually this is like this, and this bond angle is 104.5. Bond angle between OH and OH is 104.5. And of course you have the bond length is 25.7 picometer. Okay, and because of this small presence of extra electrons in this thing, so this has a small positive structure. It occurs a small positive charge, and it has a good negative charge. And because of this, they also have the power of actually hydrogen bonding. Okay, so the hydrogen bonding, especially intermolecular hydrogen bonding, various water molecules are linked through hydrogen bonding. Because of the hydrogen bonding, it gives them a lot of other properties like higher boiling point, because of the hydrogen bonding, you have the high BP, boiling point, high freezing point. Okay, because of this high boiling point, high heat of vaporization, all those things because of the hydrogen bonding. And water is also having lot of unique physical properties, in the sense, these are all themselves are the physical properties, in the sense it is known for its surface tension, okay, it is known for its surface tension, and it is known for, because of this high heat of vaporization, it can cool the atmosphere wherever it is. So whenever the Earth's atmosphere, whenever the Earth is getting extraordinary hot, where the water, either even if it is raining, makes the entire surrounding cool. Okay, then not only that, even whatever the hotness is there in the day, the temperature falls down, and of course because water drop in the water vapor in the air flows down as a dew, so that it cools the entire earth. So it has a very good property of maintaining the Earth's temperature. It has a good surface tension. Okay, and then because of this heat of vaporization only, it has a cooling effect. And of course, it has a, it can take, it has a dipole moment. Okay, because of these charges around, it has a dipole moment. So like that, lot of unique properties of water are there. And of course, it also acts as a universal solvent. Chemical properties of water. Okay, water is amphoteric in nature. So it reacts with both acid as well as alkali. Sorry, as this thing. Say with the base, it also forms what? So it reacts with both acid as well as the alkalis. For H2O reacts with ammonia to form the ammonium hydroxide, and of course it also reacts with H2S to form hydronium salt. Ammonium hydroxide, it also reacts with H2S to form an hydronium salt. Okay, so it is amphoteric in nature. It also undergoes self-protolysis. In the sense, two water molecules, they act like this, in the sense this is becoming a hydronium ion. Okay, so it becomes both as a, it actually donates a proton as well as accepts the proton. So it accepts the proton, so this is a conjugate acid. Okay, so and this is a conjugate. This is, see, it donates a proton and donates an electron. So when it donates a proton, this is the conjugate base, sorry, conjugate acid and conjugate base. Conjugates. Okay, so both two water molecules, the one accepts, donates the electron, other accepts the electron. This accepts the electron, and one other, this here it donates an electron. Okay, so it is again, it is losing releasing a proton. It is losing a proton and accepting a proton, or donating a proton or accepting a proton, whatever it is. Okay, so they form conjugates. These two are conjugates. Okay, so then it also has the power of redox reactions. Undergoes both oxidation as well as reduction. The redox reactions of water are well known, in the sense actually when it is treated with sodium, it burns or it reacts very violently with the sodium to form sodium hydroxide. And this gives hydrogen, and this is the major source for preparation of hydrogen, dihydrogen. So this reaction happens very violently. So we, because sodium is a very powerful element, so it has to be taken, the reaction, whole reaction has to be happening in care. So even in photosynthesis reaction also, it undergoes oxidation, say CO2 plus H2O, 6CO2 plus 12H2O gives C6H12O6 plus you also get oxygen. Okay, so this undergoes oxidation in this is photosynthesis reaction. This undergoes oxidation. The oxidation products are like glucose and water plus oxygen. Okay, so this is so 6 is gone. So you have 12H, no? So that is 6s2. Okay, whatever water which is used as will come out. So this is 6O2. So this is for the redox reactions. And of course, water also undergoes very other of the reactions like hydrolysis reactions and hydrate formation. Hydrolysis, when it comes to P4O10, it is hydrolyzed. Sorry. Phosphorus and hydrochloride, phosphorus chloride is hydrolyzed to form S3PO4. So this is hydrolysis reaction. It also then that the hydrate formation, it actually gets added to certain salts like copper sulfate to form CuSO4 5s2O, and of course in alum also the hydration is happening, and of course it also forms some coordinated complexes with chromium. Okay, and of course with then it also, hydrate formation in copper sulfate, you also have coordinate covalent bonds formed with the copper or formed with this thing Cr. So these are some of the reactions or chemical properties of water.